Good evening and welcome back to This Week at Little Hills. I'm so glad that you're here with me as we continue 52 verses in 52 books in 52 weeks. On this week after Ascension Day was observed, the traditional celebration of the day that Jesus ascended into heaven, I thought it'd be appropriate for us to turn to the book of Acts, where we read in chapter 1 about the disciples' reaction after he ascended into heaven. He's ascended and they're just standing there looking up at the sky, and that's what we see in chapter 1, verse 10. It says they were looking intently up into the sky as he was going, and when suddenly two men dressed in white stood beside them. "Men of Galilee," they said, "why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven." They're standing there just staring at the sky. These angels appear to them and say, "Why are you still looking? Jesus has gone into heaven. He will return." But for the disciples, I have to think that they were still processing the joy of the resurrection. They were still processing the idea that Jesus was back from the dead. And the idea that he was gone again was probably overwhelming for them. How do you get that around? How do you get your mind around that? As people are going about their normal daily lives, as the cars behind me are going about their normal daily lives, how does anything feel normal when you've seen the risen Savior and then he's gone again? And we see the answer to that as we go into the book of Acts. We see a story of a people who don't go back to normal, but rather recognize God's calling in their lives to go and proclaim the gospel. They don't go back to normal. They go to a new, a more wonderful and glorious normal of proclaiming that the risen Lord is going to come again. That's what he calls us to do too. On days like today where it's raining a bit and then it's sunny and then it's raining and then it's sunny and we're not really sure what to do, we feel very off balanced. And in life we feel off balanced. We have moments where we feel like we're right in God's presence and he's with us and he's guiding us, and then he feels very distant. What do we do in all of those? We do the same thing the disciples did. We go and we proclaim the gospel knowing that there is a day coming in which Jesus returns, and that all those ups and downs will only be the absolute highest mountaintop of being in Jesus' presence. That's the hope that we find in the gospel. That's the hope that we find in the book of Acts, that there are going to be challenges. And we see in the book of Acts all kinds of challenges for the disciples and the other followers of Jesus. But Jesus is coming back, and that's our hope. He's not coming just like a car that's going to pass by here and then go on. He's coming back and he's going to be in our lives. He's going to restore us. Well, I hope you'll join me tomorrow night as we wrap up our series, Proverbially Speaking, and we're going to be thinking about really a part of living that life waiting for Jesus to return. How do we care for others? And particularly, how do we care for the poor? What does that look like as Christians? It's going to be a wonderful time in the Proverbs. I hope you'll join me for that at 7 p.m. Next week, we're going to be beginning a brand new series on the end times, and I can't wait to share more about that with you tomorrow night too. And then Thursday night, we're going to begin a men's Bible study in the book of Acts. So if I've intrigued you tonight and you're looking for a men's Bible study, I hope that you would consider taking part in the Faith Tree Men's Bible Study, The Gospel Unhindered, starting at 7 p.m. on Thursday evening. If there's any way I can be praying for you this week, feel free to shoot me an email, leave a prayer request in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I do hope you'll join me tomorrow night for the conclusion of our series, Proverbially Speaking, next week for our new End Time series, and in the meantime, Thursday night, a men's Bible study in the book of Acts, thinking about how we live our lives in anticipation of the Savior who is returning. Have a wonderful week.